Friends, welcome to Akulmach Live, and today we have a very interesting show, and this is going to be a daily show, as you know. And if you want to interact with me live, then there are three methods in which you can interact. One is you can use the chat function here, and if you chat in your social media, it will instantly come here. I will read your question and talk about it by taking your name. Other method is you can actually join live with me with your camera and microphone. Use this code which is given here. As you can see, this is the code that is given here. It is the Meet code, and the lines are open. You can reach out to me and we can have a chat about the subject being discussed. The third very interesting method is join as an expert. So if you want to talk more about your opinions and what you do, then you can write to us in this email, and you can reach out to us and book your slot. So there are three methods by which we can actually have you interact with us. So moving on with our program, this is called Assimilate with Akulmach, and very interesting thing happened last week, and this is about the ISRO, which is a premium space research organization from India, launched their solar power calculator. Now you would say that, what is a big deal? I mean, I've been seeing the solar powered calculator for so long, but this is exactly where our thought process is going wrong. Basically, the solar powered calculator is not what they have launched. They have launched solar power calculator. And to explain this in detail, the earth gets the highest amount of sun on the equator and least amount of the sun rays on the poles. So as progressively you move away from equator towards the pole, whether north or south, the amount of solar energy that you can get progressively start. So the countries, if they want to invest, or if you as an individual want to invest in solar power, you want to get the solar power installed in your home, or as a district head, you want to completely do away with conventional electricity, but go on unconventional, which is solar power. But you have to know how much power is required and how much investment is required for me to basically get this whole plan rolled out. So in order to know that, people will have to do very they have their own mechanism, but this is something which has been done by ISRO for very very long time, and now they are providing it to the rest of the world, whoever wants it, so that they know exactly in their land, in their piece of land on earth, surface of the earth, how much power is available potentially. And in order to do this, you have to rely on satellites. So when I say that it is not a solar powered calculator, it is the solar power calculator, and they are using the satellite technology. And for this activity, the geosynchronous satellites are used, simply because they are stationary, as the name suggests, and they are way far away from Earth, almost like 36,000 kilometers, and then they start rotating in 24-hour orbit. And as a result, they will stay stationary on a place on the Earth. So ISRO has been pioneer in launching their geostationary satellites. They've been doing it for last 20-30 years, and the calculator will actually give you potential solar energy which is available on the piece of your land, and they use the satellite technology. They will, so in the application all you have to do is key in your coordinates, latitude and longitude, and the application will tell you what is the potential of the solar energy that point on earth gets. So this is very interesting, friends, and this is something which is being done by ISRO, and anyone across the world can actually um, utilize this application or a process or a system to get hold of how much solar power their piece of land is giving, and that will give them a lot of headroom, elbow room and leg room to plan their activity. Maybe they have to try a combination, because now they know that the set amount of solar power they are getting on their piece of land during daytime, uh, and it is not going to fulfill their need to run electricity in that district or house. So they can then start planning in terms of whether they need to go for conventional power, or they need to go for wind power, how much solar energy they can generate, and how much deficit they have which needs to be fulfilled somehow. So I think this is a very good thing. It will help citizens of the world to start thinking about about the plan, the moving on to the solar power, and move away from fossil fuel, because even in the COP26 pledge that has been taken is to uh, reduce our carbon footprint, and we have to get to the goal of net zero. So I think solar power is most viable, always available. All you have to do is harness it, and in order to plan your activity, you have to know how much solar power is available in your area. And I think this solar power calculator from ISRO will be very helpful. As you can see in this picture, director of ISRO is announcing about this to the rest of the world. And I think this is a message for anyone who wants to utilize the application to plan their solar power requirement. I think this is something to help them. So friends, I will move on to the next story, and I will just go take a break for a minute, and I'll be joining back just after a short break of 1 minute. In the meanwhile, you can actually start dialing in. If you have any observation, you can dial in using our link, which is meet.google.com ndn-euvn-smt, and this will bring you directly into this live show with your camera and microphone. So I will catch you after the break on the other side, and don't go anywhere. I will have a very interesting story lined up for you. Welcome back, friends, and we move on to the next story today. And today being the festival also, but this is a very interesting story. I think it is relevant to the business people, and this is a ruling given by Supreme Court of India. And the ruling is that in case some company does something wrong, and they get caught in income tax or some sort of procedural activity which they get caught. So what we have been seeing in the media is that immediately their directors are arrested and put behind bars. So many times it could be a system related issue which requires a very simple explanation, and even if they are willing to pay the fine, etc. But because of this, the directors are arrested and put behind bars, and then it brings a lot of humiliation to the people who are actually running these organizations. So this has been happening, in case there is some text related activity, that the law is going to take its own course. But then in the meantime, before the charge sheet is uh, produced in the court of law, the police basically arrest these directors, and they say that they need this remand of these people so that they can come up with an evidence and strengthen their case, and they can build the case basically against these people, while these people actually relinquish in the jail. So this is a very big thing, and people are really annoyed because of this. Many people who are affected, because many times in ignorance, mistake can happen. So I think to prevent this and to also uphold the democratic right of everyone, of all Indians, the Supreme Court has ruled, saying that in case the company does something wrong, you can take action against the company, but the authorities have no right to arrest the director of the company. So, they have very clearly given this ruling, and this ruling will actually mean that the entities, the differentiation in entities, which is the company is one entity, and the director of the company are another entity, and they are related with the relationship of working for the company. Directors are also a set of employees, very senior employees, who are working for the company to ensure that the company uh, progress and produce the right results that they are expecting. But in case there is some complaint against them, or something which has gone wrong in the system, you cannot arrest the directors and put behind bar, because that is something which is counterproductive. And in case there is some very grievous, jail in a democracy is meant for very grievous people who have done some grievous activities. That is why there is a need to keep these people out of normal life from society into a confined area like jail. Now, in this case, where the companies have got a complaint against them, either in terms of not being able to provide customer service or income tax relief or something else. So, in case there is an inquiry on the company, for that inquiry, directors of the company need not be arrested, and they have to give full cooperation in investigation, but they need not be arrested and put inside a confined area which is meant for dreaded criminals. So I think this is something which has been defined by Supreme Court. I think my lawyer friends in my circle would like to join me in the next session, and maybe require more details about this, because I think I'm not a legal man, but I think lawyers can join the session and talk to the people in our expert category, and they can use this link uh, with an email, which will basically we will actually fix up a slot. So appealing all lawyers who want to basically participate in our program, they can send us an email and we can fix up and we can discuss this very item, which is about um, not arresting the directors of the company in case there is a complaint on the company. And I think they can explain in a much better way, because they will be able to tell what are do's and don'ts, what are the implications of such a ruling from Supreme. So friends, there is a message from Edified Learning, especially the message is that it is very relevant for the business fraternity. So I agree with Edified Learning. I think thank you very much for sending your message, and do continue watching our program. We want to bring more and more value added information to our viewers. So friends, I will meet you in the next item after a a minute break. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back just after a break, 1 minute break. Welcome back, friends. And this week, Prime Minister had a very big agenda. He went to Glasgow for G20 meeting. I mean, he went to Italy for a G20 meeting. After that, he went to Glasgow for COP26. And the next day, he came back, went to Kedarnath, and he announced many activities there. But I think the biggest attraction in Kedarnath is the statue which he has unveiled, and it's a Adi Shankaracharya statue. So before I actually get on to the actual statue part, let me tell you who's Adi Shankaracharya for the benefit of viewers. See, Adi Shankaracharya is a person who hailed from Kerala, and so not covering the entire story. There's a very long story, but he actually established the Shivite movement, and he actually created the he became an inspiration, very knowledgeable person. He was respected by all kings and people, by and large, across the length and breadth of India, and he traveled across India, and wherever he went, he actually, in the four corners of India, he actually set up the Adi Shankaracharya Mutt, where today these are some of these prominent religious places. And Adi Shankaracharya gave a lot of wisdom and lot of knowledge to people. And finally, at a very young age, he passed away Kedarnath, where he took samadhi. So samadhi is another method of going another life, or punarjanam, as in Hindi. It's about going to the next journey of yours after death. So instead of cremating the dead person, in case these are very enlightened soul, and there is a method defined in Hinduism where they can samadhi inside in a pit, and they can actually, there's a process, there's a whole lot of process and procedure to take a samadhi. So samadhi, and this place where he took samadhi is called Kedarnath. So as you know that in 2013 there was a major flood in India that washed away most of the establishment in and around the Kedarnath temple, and including the Adi Shankaracharya old statue that was also washed away in the flood. So a lot of activities have been going on. Lot of redevelopment programs have been running in Kedarnath, and in fact, I will talk about the redevelopment in the next story after the break. But this in this section, we'll talk about the Adi Shankaracharya statue, which was inaugurated. This new statue was inaugurated by PM Modi in Kedarnath just 2 days back. And the salient feature of this statue is very interesting, because this is a 12 feet high statue, and it has been created by a very well-known, well-established artisan from Karnataka, and this is made of a stone which is very resilient to weather, so sun, water, and other wind erosion and all that. Very, very hard, very sturdy rock using which this statue has been created, and it's 12 feet high. As you can see, it's a big statue. Before the statue was the sculpting of this statue was undertaken, 9 different designs were presented to the government of India, and eventually all these 9 designs reached PM Modi bureaucracy, and finally he actually chose this one, this design. And as you know, many of you may be knowing that Modi, during his young time, he had spent almost like 3 years in Kedarnath area trying to find answers why we are, etc., and many more questions he be having in his mind. So he went on a life like a hermit in Kedarnath when he was young. So he has a very strong bond with this area, and that is why he actually decided that the statue of Adi Shankaracharya, Guru Adi Shankaracharya, has to be like this, and this is now installed in Kedarnath. I think it's very, very interesting, very detailed, and if you can see, this is minutest of the details have been captured in this sculpture. It's amazing. I think it's really amazing. I am now waiting for corona pandemic lockdown related issue, or even the pandemic related issue, to go away in the past, so that we can freely move around and go without any risk to Kedarnath and have a darshan of Lord Shiva, and also get to see the statue of Adi Shankaracharya ji. So I think this is amazing. This is something which is quite heartening to see that the reconstruction of the Kedarnath township is going on, and in a very modern way. So don't go anywhere, friends. I will join back and give you more information of what is going on in Kedarnath in the next story after the break. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back after a minute. Welcome back, friends. Our lines are open. You can use this link which is given here, uh, NDNEMT, to dial in using your mic and camera, or just mic. If you have any observation, want to add to the discussion that we are having, I'm waiting. Join, and I will bring you live or show. Or if you want to join as an expert, send us an email, and we will schedule your slot, and we will get you in the future programs as an expert. So, friends, moving on, I think we were talking about Kedarnath, and the Kedarnath, we were talking about the statue. However, the Kedarnath redevelopment program is on full swing, and as you can see, Kedarnath, there is no road which will take you there. So, I think the last journey from the last motorable road, you have to do it on foot, or on a horse, or a pony, or different cradle. So if this is quite high, and this is a sort of a small plateau on which the temple has built. Surprisingly enough, there are two rivers which flows on the side of the river. So during the 2013 flood, most of this town which was built, and a lot of dharamshalas and hotels and shops for pilgrimage were washed away. A lot of people died. They something like estimate perished. However, unofficially, some people say more than 200,000 people perished in flood. Was very, very devastating. So the surprising thing, the temple stayed protected by the rocks, and whole water which was gushing out because one of the natural dam collapsed up in the mountains. So now, as part of the Kedarnath redevelopment, one course for redevelopment and had 8 new programs for betterment of Kedarnath. So now they have changed the structure completely. They have built different areas. All these 138 different projects make sure that the city have adequate lodging facility, hotels, media center, floor things, um, rivers goes on both sides of the temple are Saraswati, Mandakini. They actually have been given a proper channel out of their coming naturally, because previously for the flood there were no pathway defined for the river environment. Now a proper pathway, in case there is a lot of water into water, has a channel which take the water out without affecting the town or not. And the temple has been rebuilt. The temple stayed thoroughly repaired. There is a big platform which has for worshippers outside and a lot of structure very haphazardly designed or just came up on need basis have been removed, and structural method chaos has been, I mean, there was a structure which was missing, so they've created a, they've also built 900 steps on the platform and reach the, so this 130 crore is used in, surprisingly, you want to take tip, in fact take major, so if you want to take a dip in these ice cold rivers which are flowing sides, you can now, because there are arts being constructed as part of this new renovation program. Arts have been renamed, has been named behind some big people. So you can go down and you know worship the Lord and also take a holy dip these rivers. So there are guards, multiple guards are coming, that there are no crowding in one area. At the same time, there are proper token systems, that there is no proper queue, unnecessary crowd built up. So to ensure all of this, all the announced 8 new projects, which amounts to 130. Very interesting to see the whole redevelopment plan of Kedarnath. I think by the time this pandemic is over, I think operational, we will here we have a divine connection with God. So friends, I think I move on to the next three. Lines are open. You can join me using this link, and if you want to join as an expert, as a speaker, you can send us an email, and the lines are open. So I'm waiting for you to join me and also your comments. So I will take a short break and join you back after. Just Welcome back, friends. China was missing from the global forums last week. They were missing from G20, also missing COP20. Um, so why, all why they were missing? Why they are one of the most populous country and the environment related are definitely genuine or everyone should be a genuine concern. Not only the leadership, but also the people of the world. Also includes China with their 1.5 people. So why they were missing in action? Why they were not participating uh, of these global forums? I think this requires my attention. The whole point is that the China has come up in a communist country. We don't know what goes on inside that. Freedom to people. Yes. So whoever wants to report taken for a task, purge as they call it in world, purged, or horrible things may have people. We have no idea. So coming back to the environment issue, uh, in area of environment, I am really thinking because they have progressed, so they don't care about the all. In India, which is the second populous country, we are very concerned about the legal ramifications. We don't want to do that illegal globally. As a race, we are very particular about following law, and I can't say as much with a lot of confidence Chinese because individually they may be doing it, but there is a lot of pressure to use these small things. The smallest of the supply chain is coming from China. The people who are behind this supply chain may be producing these things, and because of that, the government, which is one party system there, communist government, the government have taken the global format, taken those consideration to their people. For example, if India has to do things, then we have to follow different global regulations like anti or have to do import export, follow the import export law. In case there is some person who committed a crime and fled the country, have the back. So there are international laws. We need while keeping the rights of the city, not only of foreigners but also citizens at par with the foreigners. So the Indian citizens' freedom is equal to any free citizen across the world. We have to ensure all that as a race, as a country, as the government, which I don't see happening because there is one party which is ruled by one person in China, any other communist country. So it's not entirely democratic. And if the leader is good, things will work properly. The wheel will rotate properly. If the leader is not good, then things can go south. So now I have no problem with Jinping. He is a great leader. His intentions are good for his people. However, as the country, you have to remain in coherence with the rest of the world. You cannot start multiple fights at the same time. So I think this is something that they are doing, at least in the media, are always part of a heated debate. However, they were missing from these forums, which are very important for the world itself. So I think they have not created the ecosystem for environment. They have actually built their industry and the global supply chain today based on violating a lot of environment friendly policies, environment processes. And we all know that none of the living, I mean, they have zero ethics for the rights because the habits are like that. So I think when it comes to environment, animal protection is also part of that. animals, eat them. So I think the whole ideology of China as a country dependent on violating different global laws. There is no democracy. Nobody can object to what the government, and within the government, only certain people will have the power, most power. Rest will be just followers. So, in such a scenario, China to agree to net zero targets, it's impossible because if they were allowed to follow that, I think they are the biggest polluter today because of the industry. They are not their industry, which is a scale industry in nutshell, not be completely automated, may not be completely environment friendly, not be completely clean. So they have a lot to do in order to net zero targets for their country. And if they do the global pressure, then the Chinese economy will collapse. It's collapsing, but it'll take time. It'll take 20 years. So by this time, China has take corrective measure. But if they for a net zero carbon emission target 50, their collapse will happen just in 2 years because it's not easy to all that because they are built their economy by violating everything, by violating every environment friend that is 10%. So I think to build that pressure, to that framework, tell their people to train them, sensitize them towards animals, sensitize them towards uh, environment, air pollution, so on and so forth. It is a circular task, but this is why, in order to do a face saving, they pay by registering their token resentment, and they said that hey, we don't want to participate. The two absentees, prominent absentees, are Russia, China. But Russia is not a big problem because not a big. I mean, they are a big country, but the population as China. China being the largest polluter, they have a lot to do with these net targets, and you can't say that hey, I will not. You guys all follow good practices. I will not follow. So I think the pressure will start building. Don't help them even if they not become absent because we have only one Earth. It is a closed system. China is a country in heart of the people, but essentially for nature, there is no country. Just one race, one environment, one closed system, which everyone has the responsibility to fully pitch in and take care of our environment. And the way it is going, rise of 2.6 degrees temperature of these towns, it's better for them to come up global community, work with the global community, and get their own terms because I think time is limited. I think this is what I feel happened, and because of that, the China stayed out of COP26 and agenda. While China was out, India has taken limelight because uh, second most populous country, also the third largest polluter, per, but per capita pollution is the lowest in the world. So India is right. We can control our pollution, and Prime Minister Modi already said that he has set up the target. Moving on, the biggest pollution is the power generation units, which are based on power. So I think there has been a target. Almost like 50% cars will be electrified by 2030. A lot of activity going on. Um, highways are coming up where trucks will not run on gasoline, run on wires powered by the wires. and these are so the routes have been identified so that have any gas guzzlers, very heavy traffic highways for transportation of goods carrier. So those things are being, so the target has been set up almost like 50% journey we will finish in 2030. Rest 50% will depend on the environment justice discussion underway. I think the COP 26 weeks we will following that and offer the analysis as and when. So don't go anywhere, friends. I will be joining back with a new after it. Welcome back, friends. So the last story today is about a new gadget which has been launched by Reliance Jio, and this is a smartphone. I think aware of this, but I think the new smartphone is Horizon, while the first phone was the cheapest smartphone uh, being developed by Reliance and Google, tech giant from United States, and this current smartphone is available for just 3,000 rupees. Next one is more powerful and will be available for 6,500, something. So, so this mobile phone slightly more punchier. It will have more tech in it, and see what happens is when we use our mobile phone, like 1.5 lakh rupees to buy these devices. Uh, but uh, I think security is becoming now. When we talk about security, half of the things that we cannot do, even if we spend 1.5 lakh rupees or $1,000 mobile phone, or even $1,500 mobile phone of dead weight, basically the expense. Most of the things which are which we do is this low cost mobile phone. 90% of our activities that we do today, WhatsApp, checking, browsing, watching a movie, this device, which is a low-end device, just 6,500 is going to be launched very soon, a couple of months' time by Reliance Jio, and this is going to do most of the things that we mobile devices, smart devices for. So we don't have to really do. Uh, these are exposed to so much, and because of security, half the things are not allowed now. What was allowed, applications are allowed, like app are not allowed anymore. So what's the point in having an expensive mobile device when you 90% of your job is taken care by this device? So I think this is so interesting, and it's logical. The thought process behind this device is also very logical. It is going to be Android powered, and they have created a new OS called Pragati. There's an Android OS. It's done in partnership with Science and Google. They have a low power Qualcomm Snapdragon processor, which is 1.3 gigahertz. And because it's a 1.3 gigahertz, you don't need a very battery. I mean, if you have a very heavy, high powered CPU, then you need a good battery. 1.6. The battery size is also. So these are the main items in mobile where has Qualcomm Snapdragon processor, good quality. OS is Android, which is designed especially for this mobile for Jio. Google has Bluetooth of 4.2, Wi-Fi 0.11, like Wi-Fi 5, and it has a graphic card, and also has a wireless. So the size of this is 4.45, quite watch. The decent size watch here comes with 32 GB internal, also RAM. So I think you can then enhance this to higher storage, external cards. I think this is something which is good and quite reasonable, because most of the things that we need our devices to do, can do it at just 6,500 rupees, and get this device as a launch. I mean, the device is already available. This is slightly more powerful. It's a device which is now available, smart, smart device with so just 3,000. This is going to be launched very soon, and as it when come out with a new device, I will my analysis. But today I like to just say that as the technology is improving, security concern is making sure that we don't actually get to do anything and everything on a mobile. So there is no buying a mobile, especially when you want to just do chatting, calling, media viewing, emails, etc. So go for a low-end mobile device, this one, and save the money for the rainy day. Use it more intelligently. So, friends, I will be back tomorrow at 2:30 again, and I look forward to your participation either via video or via your chat messages. And as you know, friends, we are live on all social reach us any of the social platform. You can actually become part of our program live. These are the links. Uh, these links are also available in the you can save them as a bookmark browser, and so that you know exactly you can get on live with us. So friends, I will say goodbye for today. Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmach, and welcome to the legal matters. And today is Sunday, and all of us are glued to the screen nowadays and watching the news also most of the time, and we are hearing so many court cases being filed between politicians, and we keep hearing these words very often in the news, that is cognizable and non-cognizable offenses. So one guy filing a defamation suit, and it is cognizable, and sometimes it is non-cognizable. So these are very technical terms. To understand in depth what is the meaning, what is the difference between cognizable and non-cognizable offenses, let me invite my friend from Ahmedabad, Mr. Jeet Bhatt.
Hello, Chandrakant. Thank you for having me on this show. And yes, as you said, today's topic, these are legal jargons, as we call it, and are, of course, not just complicated but also difficult to understand for layman. And therefore, today I'm going to speak about this topic about cognizable and non-cognizable offenses, and also how the offenses under the Indian Penal Code are classified into being cognizable, non-cognizable, bailable, non-bailable, and compoundable and non-compoundable offenses. So these are the three criteria under which the offenses in the Indian Penal Code are classified. An offense is either compoundable, non-compoundable, cognizable, non-cognizable, and bailable or non-bailable. So this classification, which is provided under the Indian Penal Code, is based on the gravity of the offense. So if an offense is of a serious nature, like rape, murder, dacoity, robbery, then these sort of offenses are considered as cognizable, non-bailable, and non-compoundable. So what is the difference? I will explain. And whereas similarly, if the offense is the gravity of the offense is not so grave and it is not a very serious offense, like say cheating or forgery or say defamation, then these sort of offenses are non-cognizable, bailable, and compoundable. So the difference between a cognizable and a non-cognizable case is that in a cognizable offense, the police has the power to arrest the accused without the warrant of the court. And whereas in a non-cognizable offense, the police cannot arrest without the warrant from a court. So this is the basic difference between these two categories of offenses. A cognizable offense is always a serious offense, whereas a non-cognizable offense is not a serious offense, and where the maximum punishment is 3 years or less than 3 years. So another classification which the Indian Penal Code prescribes is that an offense which has a punishment of higher than 3 years would be a cognizable offense and would be non-bailable. Whereas if the punishment is maximum 3 years or less, then such offenses which are the gravity is less would be non-cognizable and bailable. So non-cognizable meaning that the police itself cannot register an FIR. It will have to send the complainant to the court, and only after taking permission from court, the police will be in a position to investigate, and thereafter, after the arrest warrant, they can arrest. So the accused person will not have to go to court in order to approach request for either anticipatory bail or bail, because the police itself at the police station would be able to grant bail to the accused person. So the arrest would not be imminent, and arrest would not take place in a non-cognizable and bailable offense. So this is the first difference. Whereas in a cognizable and non-bailable offense, cognizable in the sense that the police will have the authority to register the FIR without sending the complainant to the concerned metropolitan magistrate or a concerned magistrate, a judicial magistrate first class, and the police can itself start the investigation immediately upon the receipt of the information of a cognizable offense. So the police has the power to investigate a cognizable offense from the moment when the police gets the information that an offense which is in the nature of a cognizable offense is committed. So any person who sees, witnesses, or is a victim of any offense brings to the notice of the police officer the commission of a cognizable offense, the police will immediately first register in its diary and thereafter issue a first information report, which is known as the FIR, which is also considered to be the starting point of the criminal investigating agency. The machinery of the criminal, the machinery sets into motion after the registration of FIR. So that is the starting point. The FIR, basically, you have to inform either a victim or any person who has seen the commission of a cognizable offense has to inform the concerned police station that this is what has happened. And if it is a cognizable offense where punishment is more than 3 years and the code itself prescribes that it is a cognizable offense, then the police officer will immediately register an FIR, put an entry into his police diary, and immediately start the investigation. So, in a cognizable offense, the police has much the power to investigate according to the Code of Criminal Procedure. So, it can carry out all the process of investigation after the registration of FIR. So, this is the basic difference between a cognizable and non-cognizable offense. Whereas bailable and non-bailable also, as I said, that it depends on the gravity. If the offense that is committed, which the Indian Penal Code prescribes a punishment of 3 years or less than 3 years, it will be a bailable offense. So, in case if the offense is registered and the accused person is called to the police station, the police officer himself has the power to grant him bail. So, he will not have to approach the concerned court, and the court will, the police officer itself will grant him bail. So this is the difference between a bailable and a non-bailable offense. Whereas in a non-bailable offense, the police has power to arrest the accused, and once arrested, the police officer can keep him in his police custody only for 24 hours. So within that 24 hours, the police officer will have to seek the permission from the concerned magistrate having jurisdiction over the police station where he is performing his functions. And the magistrate will thereafter decide whether the accused person has to be kept in police custody or judicial custody. So, police custody is what is known as remand, and which we hear in newspapers and cases several times that police is seeking remand. So, remand basically is a police custody. It is the extension of custody beyond 24 hours, because our constitution itself provides the protection under Article 20, Clause 2, that the person cannot be kept in police custody for more than 24 hours. He has to be produced before the magistrate concerned within 24 hours. So once the police produces him before the magistrate, the police can seek for police custody, that is known as remand. And if the court thinks fit upon application of its mind and the reasons which the police are seeking his remand for, and if the court finds that there is a ground for granting police custody, that is remand, then the court will grant 4 days, 5 days, depending, but that cannot exceed 15 days of remand. So again, there is a protection given to the accused person, and this is necessary because under the police custody, the police would usually, and we are aware that uses certain degrees of torture upon the accused person, and therefore to avoid it, because under such coercion, under such police pressure, several times accused persons are compelled to give their confession, and therefore to avoid such circumstances and to avoid the accused person himself to be a witness in his, because what the police does is uh, using force and using third degree methods, they extract information out of him. But that is not permissible under the constitution, because the constitution also guarantees that an accused person cannot be compelled to be a witness in his own case. So even if I suppose I have committed an offense, the police cannot force me to give out information, and I have a right to remain silent because of this provision, that I cannot be compelled to be a witness in my own case. And this is a very important constitutional guarantee provided under the fundamental right, and it is the right of every citizen to remain silent when questioned by the police authorities. So therefore, these are important constitutional rights. And in a cognizable and non-bailable offense, the police cannot use any type of force or any type of pressure on the accused person. The police has to independently investigate, because police has all the power and mechanism under the Code of Criminal Procedure, which it can use and gather the information. It can go to the spot, it can take all help of forensic experts available, it can send the details to the FSL laboratories and get all informations which it can through legal source and legal method. But illegally, it cannot compel any person to be a witness in his own case. So that is remand, that is police custody. And if the police custody is denied, then the accused person will be sent to judicial custody. And the judicial custody is what we known as the central jails. So where in central jail the accused persons are kept, either they would be under trial, because till the trial is pending, they would be known as under trial, and they would be kept in the central jails in different barracks. So then the investigation has to be completed if the person is under custody within the period of 60 days or 90 days, depending upon the offense that is registered against him. Mostly in offenses where punishment is less than 7 years, the time period for completing the investigation is 60 days. And where the punishment is more than 10 years up to life imprisonment, the time period for investigation to be completed is 90 days, if and only if the accused person is in custody. And also there is a provision that if the investigation is not completed within this 60 or 90 days, depending on the offense which is registered against him, then the accused person is entitled to default bail. The accused person, upon making an application, will have to be released on bail if the investigation is not completed within 60 or 90 days. So this is a mandatory provision which gives again protection to the accused. That is, the police officers are taking longer period than required in completing the investigation, then the accused is entitled to default bail. So without going into the merits, without going into what offense it is, without going into the gravity and the nature of allegation against him, the accused is entitled under the law to be granted bail if the investigation is not completed within 60 or 90 days, depending on the offense registered against him. So this is again the question of remand and the question of bail. But if the court, concerned court, upon production of the accused to the magistrate, rejects his remand application and sends him to judicial custody, the accused person also has the right to approach the higher court for granting regular bail. And the sessions court as well as the high court, and also he can approach up to the Supreme Court for grant of bail, and that matter can be decided by the higher courts. So the third is, after bailable, non-bailable comes compoundable and non-compoundable offenses. So the difference between compoundable and non-compoundable offense is that a compoundable offense can be settled with the victim or the complainant, and the court can compound the offense and release the accused person. Whereas in a non-compoundable case, which is of very serious nature, because the prosecution is always led by the state, because the state has a role in ensuring not just that a proper and fair investigation is done, but also the truth comes out in the matter. And if the offense is of a serious offense, then the offense is against the society. An accused person who is accused of a charge like murder or rape should not be permitted to settle the dispute outside the court with the complainant by giving some amount of compensation, and the accused person cannot be set free. So in serious offenses, the offenses are non-compoundable, which cannot be settled outside the court with the complainant or the victim. But in not so serious offenses, like say forgery or cheating or breach of trust, if it is between private parties and if it's a sort of a private dispute, then even if it is settled, then the court can compound the offense and release the accused from further trial and from punishment. But otherwise, serious offenses cannot be compounded, they are non-compoundable, and the entire trial has to take place, and ultimately the court will decide whether he is guilty or innocent. So these are the three criteria or categories under which the offenses are classified. It is cognizable, non-cognizable, compoundable, non-compoundable, and bailable and non-bailable. So this is just a brief overview of these provisions. And I hope I've clarified and it was easy to understand for your viewers.
Absolutely. I think it was very crystal clear, and you have given a lot of details, and you have given examples, and you have given the procedures, and the flow of how things happen in the court. But one question that is coming to my mind, and that is, in fact, you have explained that who has the authority and all that, but many times it can be manipulated in the court, where a simple offense can be manipulated to become a non-cognizable offense. So, is there a possibility of such an occurrence where a simple offense like cheating, can be a non-cognizable offense?
So, well, it happens several times that the police don't conduct a fair and impartial investigation, because the role of police is not just to ensure that evidence is collected against one X person, Y person, or Z person, but the role of police is to do a fair and impartial investigation so that the truth may come out. So, for example, if I may give you that in a case of suicide by wife, suppose if the wife uh, uh, the wife commits suicide after marriage within, say, couple of years, and the allegation of the in-laws or of the wife's parent is that there was a trauma given to the wife by the husband and his in-laws, her in-laws. So then the police has to also see, not just gather evidence against the husband and the in-laws, but also to see that what was the mental frame of mind of the accused, what circumstances that led her to commit suicide, whether she was suffering from any mental illness, like was she under depression, or was there any suicidal tendencies, and whether she was taking proper advice from the doctor, whether she was under medication or not. And if ultimately, if it is found that she was depressed, she was having suicidal tendencies, then the police officer also has to bring out those during his investigation and to give his opinion that whether circumstances existed that the husband and in-laws tortured the wife to such an extent that she took her life, because otherwise it would not be abatement to suicide, an offense which is of a serious nature, if the wife herself was having suicidal tendencies or was under medication for depression. Because then the reason is not that the husbands have or the husband or in-laws have committed such amount of torture against the wife, but it is her mental uh, problem herself which led her to commit suicide. So therefore, proper investigation, a fair investigation, is absolutely crucial and important, because otherwise it can lead to travesty of justice. And as a old maxim under the common law, which says that 99 accused person should go scot free, but not a one single innocent person should be convicted of an offense. And this holds absolutely true in a democratic setup, because these principles are of the highest principles which the state has to maintain and follow. Because one innocent person suffering, it leads to travesty of justice. So this should absolutely be avoided in all circumstances. But this happens many times. Experience says that the police, if they are not able to catch hold of the correct accused, they catch hold of any person and then frame him of serious offenses. So certainly it happens that police also sometimes do not conduct proper investigation or frame certain persons who are not actually involved in the commission of the crime.
So, in such a event, if somebody is framed wrongly in a cognizable offense, what are the remedies? If you can share very briefly, not in too much detail, but if briefly, if you can say that, for example, you can do this thing in court, etc., etc. So, very briefly, if you can tell the viewers.
So first, he has a right to approach. If he is arrested, he has the right to approach to the concerned court for bail. If he has not been arrested, he can approach for anticipatory bail. And second, the third option which is available to him is for filing of a quashing petition before the High Court. If the investigating agency has wrongly framed him, or if there is an abuse of the process, if the criminal machinery is put to use in an offense which is not actually a criminal offense but is a civil wrong. So, say in a property dispute, if false FIRs are registered and the criminal investigating agency is set into motion, then the accused persons can approach the High Court under Section 482 of the Criminal Procedure Code in order to quash the investigation and the further process. But ultimately, if quashing also doesn't work, and or if quashing is not allowed, then he has to face the trial, and ultimately he has to get acquitted after undergoing the entire process. So that is, then it's a cumbersome process.
Well, that is the fear of most of the people, because when you're framing charges, and a simple thing like cognizable, non-cognizable may lead to dire consequences for a person, for the accused. He may not be the right accused, but then he will go through the trauma. So, is there something that lawyers can do to help him?
So once if he's acquitted and if it comes to the knowledge that the wrong prosecution was initiated, then he can also file a complaint for initiation of wrongful prosecution against him. So that is also an offense under the Indian Penal Code, and that he can invoke. And also, if the court finds out that wrong evidence was filed, or if a completely false investigation and wrong procedure and wrong affidavits were given before the court, giving false evidence, then the court itself can also initiate proceedings for giving false evidence before the court.
Jeet, I think thanks for clarifying these basic stuff. But many times even the people don't understand some basic stuff how the legal system works. And we have been hearing these words like cognizable, non-cognizable in the news, and it was great learning from you about these starting points of our legal system where people can get some knowledge from our program and make use of it in whichever way they want to. But I think this is just to clarify the doubts of some of the people about what are the different types of offenses and how they are classified. So thank you so much for coming to our show and clarifying these doubts.
Thank you for having me, Chandrakant. It's my pleasure.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmach Live. I'm Kanchan Verma, and today in this episode we'll be discussing about Environment Day. The theme of Environment Day was ecosystem restoration. So are we doing ecosystem restoration in day-to-day life? We'll be discussing this with our guest today. But before that, I would like to remind you there's a free gift available only for you. So stick around to this episode till the end. We'll guide you how to avail your free gift. Hello friends, welcome to the show, and today we are discussing about Environment Day, which we celebrated on 5th of June 2021. Now it was started in 1973 by United Nations. So the Environment Day means different to different people. So I will be asking to my guest today, Ritu Gupta, to tell us about this and what this day means to her. So welcome to the show, Ritu. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Kanchan. Thank you for inviting me to the show, and I'm absolutely fine. Thank you, and I hope you're also doing fine. And it's a pleasure for me to be invited on your show to discuss a very important topic, which is about environment.
Yeah, lovely. Because, the environment over the period of time become a crucial topic to discuss because for various reasons, because there is some problem pertaining to environment. It is not been very comfortable when we talk about environment because there's pollution and all sort of bad things that's happening with human life and of course the animal life. So what do you really understand and what do you feel about this Environment Day and how we can really go forward to improve the environment?
Yeah, I think it's a very nice thing to celebrate Environment Day. And, for me, the celebration of Environment Day means to say thank you to the God for giving us such a lovely environment, giving us oxygen that we are breathing and we are alive. But at the same time, in today's present scenario, I feel that Environment Day celebration means that we should make other people aware about how to keep our environment clean and green and not to create mess for the future generation. So this is something which we have got free of cost from the Mother Earth, and we should really preserve it and be grateful for it. This is what I personally mean by Environment Day celebration, and also by planting one tree at least by one family or a person.
Yes, and this year 2021, approximately 143 countries participated to celebrate this Environment Day in this June.
Yes.
And but lately, there's an American research that found the environment is changing every day and it's changing rapidly. And we also feel that we have to do something about our changing environment. Though the topic of this Environment Day was ecology restoration.
Mm.
So what you really feel that as a community member we can do to really teach about certain things which can give which can save our environment?
Yes, to save the environment, we need to definitely, I agree that we need to restore the environment. And by restoring the environment means going back to do things which we were doing and not to, cut down the trees, not to finish the forest, not to do the deforestation. And global warming, the environment is changing. It's because of global warming. The change of environment is there everywhere, not even in bigger cities, but when you go to the rural areas also. And I think it's all over the globe because of our present lifestyle, our habits, and because of so much of population. There's so much of population everywhere, and everyone is creating some kind of garbage. So the creation of this garbage is definitely leading to the change of environment. You see the glaciers are melting. It's because people have reached everywhere. They're living everywhere. They are doing all kind of commercial activities, which should be stopped. Of course, you have to do commercial activities, but then there are some rules, some norms which have to be followed, and we should not play against the Mother Earth. So, as a community member, I feel that anyone who's living in a society, who's living in a community is a social animal, and we at our end we should create awareness. We should plant trees, and in present pandemic times, since we cannot go out of the house, by staying in the house, we can create a community group on WhatsApp, perhaps send each other text messages also, send out the research paper for other person to read, that what is environment all about, why things are going so bad, so that there is some awareness. And when things become normal, when we are able to go out, so we can do our bit of share whatever we can, perhaps by planting trees, perhaps letting people know how to save water also. And as a community member, I feel that personally right now we should do more of gardening in our house, by just planting green chilies or the mint leaves or whatever, anything. It's very good for the atmosphere also.
Yes, actually, it is very good point which you have mentioned, especially when this period of time of pandemic and everybody is at home. But there's a positive side of being at home is that river water is being cleaned. People are not visiting river banks. The air is clean because there's no vehicle on the road, so air is clean. So this is something which is good, which is happening. Though we all are suffering with pandemic because we have restricted movement, children are not going to school, and that is, I feel personally, is a lack of development when we talk about children. But there's one very negative aspect of this whole, especially pandemic, which has given, is like dumping these PP suits, gloves, masks, and that again is creating a problem for environment. So what you would like to suggest and guide people to really do with whatever they are doing, like dumping and increasing their footfalls in the hospital for small things, and going to giving away surgical masks, throwing it on the road sometimes if they are coming from somewhere. So that is one thing which is, I think, is a negative aspect of current time.
Yes, you know the positivity, as you said, and I 100% agree. The positive side of this lockdown has been that we are not going out, so you see less of traffic on the roads. So there is no traffic. The air is clean. Since there is no traffic, there is no consumption of fuel. Also, the air is clean, and we can see birds, clean sky, blue sky. Everything is fine. But the negative part of this pandemic has been that people are wearing PPE suits. They are using so much of plastic in the hospital which has to be thrown. It's a garbage, it's a one time use. So there are ways that you can dispose it of. First of all, the sanitation staff, the kids, even the kids in the house, they should be taught, they should be informed, they should be made aware that these things should not be thrown anywhere. There is a way of dumping out these things, and then they are collected and then further disposed of in various other manners. It's a big process of how to dispose of these things, but then one should be very clear about, you should not be using these things till the time it is really essential, till the time it is very essential. So I think the development is required right now, the development of the brain, which can happen only by educating people about how to make your environment stay clean without these e-wastages and plastic wastages. Anyway, because we all know that plastic is really spoiling the environment, and because of this plastic, so much of carbon dioxide is being created in the environment, which further is changing the environment, the weather, the climate change is happening because of this. So at the moment, what we can do is make people aware about it, make them know, make them educate about all these things, give out the information also.
Yes, global warming is creating a lot of problems to different countries and almost all the continents. And lately, I have heard that in Turkey is also facing a great problem because their seas are receding, and there's people are really working towards that. Fishes are dying, and it will be creating a
Yes.
lot of problem for them. But I feel communities in the neighborhood should rise and teach or practice about eco-friendly products. And that is, I think, which is very, very essential to kind of adopt that kind of lifestyle. And I think
Yes.
and this lifestyle which we are talking today, I think when we talk about Indian culture or Indian tradition, it was long being practiced in India, but still there are some pockets where people have forgotten to live an eco-friendly lifestyle. So I think that is one thing which is very, very essential. What do you say?
Yes, I totally agree. And I think the RWAs in every, we have RWAs in every society, every colony. So they have a very important role to play. And at the grassroots level, the people should go out, reach out to everyone, and make them aware about the the traditional way of living which we had in India, that was very eco-friendly way. So we can again restart those things, and it is very important. It's not that people are not aware about it, it's just that you have to give them a push again, make them realize the things which were happening 10 let's say 20 years, 30 years or 40 years back, they were pretty good. So these days we have all got into a comfort zone, and we all want a certain kind of lifestyle and things to happen fast. So perhaps we have changed the lifestyle, we have got into some new things also, but then we have the time again to restart the things. And RWA should have these kind of sessions where they invite people, where they invite the senior citizens also, where they invite the families and young kids, and where there's always a healthy discussion, two-way discussions, people talking to each other and making them introduced to the old things also. The young kids, they're not aware about what was the use of earthen pots, how it was beneficial for our health to drink water from the earthen pot. Now you see everyone is drinking water right from the refrigerator, so it's like wastage of electricity also. So these are the things I think which should be made, can be done at RWA level, which is like working at the grassroots level. So every small group is definitely giving something positive to the society.
At this point, I also want to raise one thing because I think these courses or this training should be given very early in the school. So that will also make a
Yes.
change, I guess. What do you?
Absolutely, I do agree that these there should be a curriculum in the school to young kids, to kids who are going to the school at the very young level, and they should be told about the environment, how to preserve the environment, how to restore the environment, and what things they should be doing and what things they should not be following in their daily lives, which is very important. You teach young kids, and they further take these things back to home, back to their elders in the family, and in a way they are giving back what they're learning from the school, giving back to the society. So it's a very good way to teach young kids about it, and it should be there in the school syllabus also.
You see that if we care about environment will care about us. Everybody will be happy.
Sure.
So it is so wonderful to talk to you, Ritu, and discuss few points which are very essential for a healthy lifestyle. So we'll be meeting again with next episode with the next great topic. Till then, bye-bye and take care.
Bye-bye. Stay safe and take care of yourself. Thank you.
Bye.
We have some unique Akulmach memorabilia which will make you look outstanding. The graphics on these corporate gifts are based on the global best business practices. To become recipient of one of these gifts for free, you have to watch this video till the end and provide your valuable comments, or you can also share your experiences. The person who makes the best comment would be chosen to become a recipient of these beautiful Akulmach gift, absolutely free, delivered to your doorsteps. The winner would also get a chance to be invited live as a distinguished panelist during our next video. What are you waiting for, friends? Please subscribe Akulmach and smash that Hello friends, this is Akulmach Live and I am Chandrakant. In our session today, we will talk about the support systems and how it is important for supporting our initiatives in business and personal life. And for this discussion, I'll be joined by a very important person, globally acclaimed. So don't go anywhere. I will be joining along with my guest after a short break. Welcome back, friends, and we are very pleased and honored to have Mr. Naval Gun, who is joining us from UK, and he is also the chairman of MindFit Limited. Welcome to the show, Naval.
CK, good morning, everybody. Support systems. What an interesting subject, especially when, if you don't know what support systems you've got, how do you tap into them? So, CK, over to you. Who supports you?
Well, I think my family is the first one to support me, and that is very important.
Very good answer. And yeah, it's all going to be personal. But there are three things that we can tap into when we look at support systems. There's the personal systems, the ones we automatically fall back on, that are personal to us, and they tend to be internal support systems. And then we have two types of external support systems. We have technology that we can fall back on, and we also have people. And it's the people one I think I'd like to talk a little bit more detail about today, because the people one is often missed. And it's certainly missed when you're talking about sustainable development goals, because we make an assumption that we're all in it together. Well, that's a support system in itself, isn't it? By just saying we're all in it together, what does that actually mean? So what does that mean to you, CK, in any context?
Well, Naval, in fact, support systems are very, very important. You know, everything is required to sustain your personal life as well as your business life, your professional life. If one of these things are not working properly, for example, if antivirus fails, then everything else will fail, you know. My personal life will go for a toss. I will have to spend more time in fixing that antivirus, you know, 2 or 3 hours will go easily. So everything has to work. So as simple as an antivirus stops working today, for example, you know, it could swing the balance of personal and professional life into one direction. Similarly, if the front office executive does not turn up, you know, it could become a problem. If there is no payment from a client as expected, it could turn up, you know, things things little bit south. So things like that. I think it's like a sort of coexistence of all these web of people who are coming together and making sure the systems are working, even small or large scale. I think that is what my thinking is, Neval.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, CK. And it's all these little things that we just make an assumption that they actually work. So, for instance, if you walk into a room and you switch the light on, you expect the light to come on. And when it doesn't come on, what happens to you? So this is the support system I'd like to look at now. What happens when things go wrong and there's no one else around and there's just you? Do you go off in a panic like a headless chicken and say, oh my goodness, you know, the world's going to fall in, nothing's, you know, the light switch is not working, Armageddon's coming, doomsday's here? No, that's unrealistic, but it just bores the point out that some people do panic, and they panic at different levels. So let's just keep on that little theme. When that light switch doesn't work, what goes through your mind? Do you have a logical mind? Do you have a focused mindset? So in other words, are there any other lights on in the house? So have I had an electricity failure completely? Are there other people in the street got lights? Because we're all connected, no matter where we live, we're all on the same electricity system. Is it that one light bulb that just needs replacing? Is there a bigger problem? And it's those internal mechanisms that we assume there, but when we come to rely on them in something as simple as you turned the switch on and the light didn't work, what actually happens to you? And just by these very small things, we can actually find out who we are. So we don't have to look in the mirror and think about all the worst case scenarios. We just need to think about the simple ones. So when your child comes home from school and they're crying because they've had a bad day or whatever, where does your mind go? Do you blame the teacher immediately? I know some people that do, actually. That's how ridiculous this can become. But it's that internal mechanism that we need to initially work upon. That's your first support system. And how do we know that we've got a really good internal mechanism? Well, I'm breathing currently, but I'm not telling my lungs to breathe. It's happening automatically. Blood is circulating around my veins. I'm not telling the heart to pump it because it's happening automatically. So we've got certain things that are in our system that happen automatically. And the beauty about what goes on in our brain is that we can make other things happen automatically too. We can have resilient support systems. So again, let's go back to turning that light bulb on. CK, what would go through your mind if you went into your house and you just put the switch on and nothing happened?
Well, I think two things will happen immediately. One, the state of shock. Oh, there is no light, you know, and that will last for a few seconds. And after that, the logical thinking takes over and say, okay, fine. Let's examine the problem, where the problem lies, and then one by one eliminate. And that is what exactly goes on if the light bulb kind situation. And I think this is true for everything, you know. The first reaction is always, oh my goodness, you know, this is not working. What is going to happen? My day is ruined. And things like that. I think that's the first reaction. It depends. It takes about, some cases it takes about 1 minute to eradicate this feeling. In some other cases, it may take lesser. And some other extraordinary cases, it may take longer. But I think the first thing is, oh, this is not working. My day is ruined.
You're absolutely right. And although we're just focusing on this one area, it's a really important area because it's the consequences of your actions. And ultimately, what you need is your initial support system to kick in so that you become confident, resilient, you're logically thinking, you're not making a mountain out of a molehill, and it's all those sort of things. And it's irrespective of whether it's turning a light bulb on or dealing with a real problem that's coming to the business. Someone hasn't paid their bill on time. Someone actually is phoning in sick when you really do need their help. And immediately, a lot of people just go into panic mode. And they just forget, actually, that they can deal with this if they just think of this logically and in a systematic way. So there's your first mechanism. There's your first support mechanism, you. How well are you doing? And you just think about what happened yesterday when something went wrong. How did you deal with it? How did you act on it? Because that's how you build a level of internal confidence. And that's what your initial support mechanism is. And some people have got an amazing propensity, a resilience to an internal support system. Because it doesn't matter what's thrown at them. They just calmly think about it. Yeah, there's always this shock, horror. But how long does that last? For some people I know that drive to work and they have a bad journey to work, they could be talking about that bad journey for 2 or 3 hours later. At the coffee machine, oh, did you know what happened here? Oh, yeah, I was so lucky. That person just cut across me. I might have been in hospital. I could have been dead. Imagine if I were dead. I mean, why? Why be such a drama queen about it, So you got cut up on the way to the office. Big deal. CK, you live in India. You get cut up on the way to the office every day of the week. So it doesn't make any difference. So this is about the internal support system. But now let's talk about the external support system, working in a team, because that's where the majority of business owners do a lot of their business. They actually work within a team. What sort of things can we as owners, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as managers, what sort of thing can we help people to, in essence, create their own support system to be able to deliver better to the team? What simple things can we get people to do?
Neville, I think people used to build a lot of redundancy in their organization so that the wheel continue to move. Unfortunately, none of those things exist today, even in a larger organization where you have backup of a backup of a backup. Those things are becoming less redundant right now because of the pandemic, and the world is just coming out. It looks like that we are going to come out of the pandemic situation, but still, I think it has been announced that there will be a third wave also. So I think the sustainable growth is becoming an issue. So I think to answer your question, whatever we plan today may be valid for a month or 2 months. After that, we have to do replanning. That is the way I'm thinking right now, and I'm in that situation right now, Neville.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And in essence, the word that immediately comes to mind is being flexible. I mean, there's this word that flies around the business scene currently for the last 2 or 3 years about agile operations, agile performance. Well, that relies upon you, the leader, the team player, the manager, just the person that's in a bigger team, not necessarily internally, but externally. Because your team, remember, are your suppliers and your customers. They're all part of your team. And this is about you being flexible now, your business model being flexible, recognizing that we are still, in difficult arenas. There are lots of companies that didn't survive, but you have. and you've come through this. So you've been flexible, agile, if you call it, and your support systems have worked. The key now is work out which support systems have really helped you. And look at yourself for one, because it's that internal support system you need to look at. But then when you're looking at your team, you need to see the people around you. What have they struggled with? How have they come through this? In essence, you may say they've come through it unscathed. The reality is they've got the marks, they've got the scars somewhere. And the key thing is not to help them build more scars as you go forward. So we've all got to play our part here. And to help someone else be flexible is to show that you're flexible. So whenever we talk about helping the team succeed, 99% of the time is you've got to do it first. You've got to be the one that's actually there, encouraging, empowering, having empathy with other people and recognizing the difficulties they're going through. So you become their support system. So there's nothing difficult in understanding what this is, but there's a lot of difficulty in doing it because you're going through your own problems at the same time. Does that make a bit of sense, EK? Can you see that flexibility is something that we really do need to be building upon these days?
I think so, Neville. I perfectly concur with you about being flexible, because I think that is the only strategy which is going to work, especially in the SME, SMB arena and startup arena. And personally, none of us have time to look into other people's problems, because, you know, we get so many emails. Hey, I need a job, I need this and I need that. We have nothing ourselves. So how can we help you? So I think people will have to come up with their own strategy. They have to generate their own flexibility, looking at their own surroundings, and find out what are the solutions which are specific to their surroundings. And I think this is where the SDG goals comes in picture, where, you know, we all need to sustain. We all need to think about if we have to change the strategy. We have been doing this successfully for last 10 years, but now pandemic has put the spanner in everything. So we have to reinvent ourselves. We need to be flexible, as you said. I think this is where we are today, right now. And even if we plan things, especially, you know, my kind of people, if we plan things like 6 months, I know for sure that there is going to be some other, you know, something else will happen in between, and the 6-month strategy may not work. So let's look at it month on month on month, maybe a quarter maximum. That is what we can think of.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that, in essence, is being flexible. It's actually recognizing that things have changed. So we just need to change. And that is the challenge. But like anything else, you know, as Gandhi said, you know, be the change. You know, if you want to make something else happen, you've got to be the change. And it's so true. You know, he didn't know that COVID was coming along. You know, he's long dead by the time COVID was coming along. But he recognized that the only person that can make the difference is you. So let's not worry about how he said it, when he said it, the exact words that he said it. The essence was he really did know that we need to look internally and change. And you're absolutely right about Sustainable Development Goals. These things that are called SDGs, that people flippantly actually talk about, and they're almost like throwaways. Oh, yeah, we do this in innovation, we do this in education, we want zero hunger, we want everyone to have a room over, a house over their head, etc., etc. And that the reality is the only way we're going to get SDGs to work is by having the unwritten SDG, as I call it, SDG 0. And that is having the right attitude. And if you think about it, if you have the right attitude and you work in a team in any of these SDG arenas, something good's going to happen. But if you go in there with the wrong attitude, what's in it for me, rather than what's in it for us, then you're not going to get those results. So I talk about SDG 0, you know, quite widely these days, because it's that missing SDG. It's the one that we assume is there, but unfortunately, it just relatively on the little occasions that it is really there for everybody. Everyone's in there. And we know what that means when we've got a team that are all pulling in the same direction, CK. I'm sure you've had many occasions where you've had a little team and you've had that one person mention something and it just goes on and on and on and on, and it just skyballs into something that's absolutely enormous. You've experienced that, haven't you?
Yes, Neville, I have experienced this, many times, this kind of snowballing of, good or bad publicity should be stopped, in my opinion. Excess of anything is bad. So while we are talking about SDG, I think there is a question from Ramesh, and he's asking, in his business, he also looks at SDG as an important tool for running his company, but he has no clue. He's saying that there is a training available where I can learn SDG different levels and go from there. Is there something available like that, Neville?
Well, as far as training goes, I think you'll have to Google that, because I'm aware of a few people that call SDG training, but to me, it's more of a reality check. So my comment to Ramesh would simply be, what do you do in your business? What's the benefit of your business? Who really gains from your business? How do you do your business? And then step back into each of these SDGs and just have a look at which one's going to be affected. So, for instance, let's just say, a throwaway one here. Let's say you're in a delivery system. You use lots of pallets. And all of your product is moved from one place to the next on pallets. What happens to those pallets? Because they're just a medium. They're just a convenient way of moving things around. Or maybe they're shrink wrapped, with all this plastic that goes around it, because it keeps it tight and it keeps it so that it can't be broken up. What happens to that shrink wrap? Because that's what SDGs is. It's the recyclable nature of what happens to it, because someone has created that plastic. Someone has put the pallet together. And to put the pallet together takes energy. So energy is the carbon footprint. So immediately you need to start to think about, what do you do in your business? So as for going to the question, really, as for training, I'm afraid you're going to have to Google it. But a lot of it is raising your awareness as to what SDGs really are. So what is the education SDG? What does it mean? It doesn't mean free education for all, as a lot of people might think it is. But when you get zero hunger as an SDG, we know what that means. It means that everyone's got food on a regular basis so that their life improves. And health for everybody. So as I say, you've got to look at what your organisation does, what your business process does, and how it impacts or is impacted by each of those SDGs. I hope that helps. I'm afraid, like anything, it throws it back into the person who's asked the question. Now you've got to do some research.
Well, I think there are levels already defined by the United Nations, and there are different levels. And I think you were mentioning about SDG 0. I think that is where they start, has to happen for every business, for every professional, where you actually start understanding what is the sustainable goal for your organization. I think that is where we are. And I think we can Google it very easily, read a couple of paragraphs on that, and then you have to do a lot of thinking. I think that is where things are, because training is one thing, but you can't have a cookie cutter approach where whatever you learn in the class, you apply to your situation, because your situation may be different. I think, Ramesh, in a sense, this is what I understood. So one question I have from my side, Neville, and that is that the opportunities are visible in certain areas and there are no opportunities are visible in any other areas. For example, if you look at the space exploration, there are a lot of opportunities, but to reach to that level, you need a lot of funding and a lot of backing and a lot of time, and people have already spent 2 decades. They are actually making the killing right now. The other area of interest is healthcare and education. So what happens to the other sides of business? How they actually look at the support system in their business, because somebody is having a hotel, for example. Nobody is coming into his lobby. Nobody wants to stay in a hotel right now. Very few travelers. So what they do in order to have a support for their own business?
Oh, it's a great question. In essence, we need to start looking at those that have made a real success of not owning anything. I mean, you talk about the hotel business. The biggest hotel business in the world is Airbnb. They own nothing apart from a very smart algorithm that's online and anyone can sign up to, customers and clients. So the business model has to change. I mean, the other thing is, I know this is an old adage, and a lot of people say, yeah, I know that, but the thing is, you are where you are. And no one else knows where you are. So the first thing is identify where you are, what industry you're in, why are you doing what you're doing. Because even in the hotel arena, I've noticed, certainly in the last 5 or 6 months, whereas although COVID has closed it down in certain areas, because they've been in lockdown, they haven't been able to do things. They have been able to do things about their business. They have thought about, okay, how can we get new customers through the door? How can we be more inviting to our customers? And some of it is very simple, of just looking at the business model that they've already adopted. What used to work? Maybe it won't work today, but maybe it will. Date nights are coming back. One of the things that hoteliers do know is that people go on romantic, getaways. Well, because lockdown has happened to everybody, not just the hotel industry, romantic getaways are going to be what a lot of people want to do, because the first thing they want to do is to get out of the house. Not only have they been not going to their place of work because they're working from home, but everyone has been in that same house throughout. You've experienced it. Your kids are at home. They're schooled from home. You live with your parents currently. You've also got your sister on tap. So the family unit has been forced back together. And that's not a bad thing, but we've been there for 8 months. So, I'm afraid the internal mechanism could be getting a little fraught here. So this is where people that know their business inside out, that can actually come out of this in a growth-minded arena. And it is as simple as that. I can't profess to know in the ins and outs of every specific business. But if you were to sit down with every business owner and say, okay, what do you do? Why do you do it? How do you do it? Where do you do it? What's changed? Is it a real change, or is it your perception that it's changed? And as you and I have spoken about in the past, about the digital economy, lots of retailers in the West certainly have accelerated their digital programs, almost to the point of some big high street names have closed down their big stores. John Lewis in the UK, John Lewis and the Waitrose partnership is a household name over here. It's a high-end household name as well. And they're closing down stores. Why? Because they've gone digitally. Has it been painful? Yes. Have they lost people? Yes. Have they looked at what happens in the digital world? Yes. And the interesting thing is, although they've made people redundant from their previous role, they've actually said, you know what, there's another role over here, and we're looking for a supply chain management system that I think you could really set up. So let us help you set up business as that supply chain manager. So in other words, doing the job you used to do for us, but doing it for yourself. We can't afford to pay for that specific surface inside. But if you do all the supply chain management, we'll pay you the premium to make sure the supply chain works. So it's just a different way of doing business. And I think this is where this internal support system is coming through. Because if you can think logically, you will see through any problem that's there. I mean, these are big problems, don't get me wrong. I mean, some industries have been absolutely obliterated. But I've seen what once was a tourist group that used to work outside of their area. In other words, if they had their regional tourism arena was, let's say, around Mumbai or the Mumbai district, then previously they may have been advertising overseas. You know, come to Mumbai, it's wonderful here, etc., etc. You can set up business, da-da-da. Now what they're doing, the smart ones are doing, they're saying it's an internal mechanism. You know, come to Mumbai. We've got all of these options available. You can do this, you can do that. You can't do that in your local area. So it's internal tourism that's now taken place. And of course, when we're talking about tourism in India and you're in lockdown, you can't travel anywhere else in the world. You've got 1.3 billion people that can be moving around. So again, you just need to think differently. This is not a permanent position currently. Things will change. Lockdown will go away. We will not have the same freedom that we had previously, as a lot of people seem to think that we're going to just go back to normal. But we're in the new normal. So you just have to think about your business, very carefully about your business. Just as you have, CK. You know, anyone that's running their own business, you've had to think about what's changed, why it's changed, what platforms are coming up, what platforms are now no longer useful. You know, and then you've also dealt with the change in Indian law. So you never know whether those platforms are going to be available tomorrow, because if they don't comply, all of a sudden, the Indian government say, okay, you're shut down. So why don't you share a few of those experiences where you've seen platforms change, because you don't own the platform, someone else owns the platforms, you put the content on the platform.
Well, absolutely, Neville. In fact, we were small, so we could change it very quickly, but I think it may be very difficult for larger organization to move on. In fact, there was one example which I want to give here, is that without naming the brand, one of the oldest ISP, internet service provider in India, shut down. And as a result, they were, you know, very popular in different news arena. They were the first one to start the web news, etc. And one fine day, they just said that we are shutting down, we have no money. And, you know, so many people were affected with that. They have, you know, so many companies were hosted on their platform with their company web pages. They can't shift overnight, you know. And the case has gone into the courts here, and people are fighting. I mean, they're in the south of India, but, you know, thousands and thousands of companies are affected with that shutdown. So I think we had to deal with this as well. You know, my company also had to deal with this, and we are not putting all eggs in one basket. We are making sure that we are not dependent on one particular brand. We are trying to see if we can distribute into a different segment. I think today's lesson from after talking to you is that we all need to sit down and understand what is our quality, you know, in order to have a proper support system. And, you know, some of things which we were doing for a number of years, for decades in the past, is not valid anymore. You know, our experience is not valid. So we need to think, we need to take a break and think what we can do with our own hands. You know, let me put it in a very rustic language, you know, what we can build with our own hands, rather than, hey, can I hire 10 people and build this software? Or can I, you know, build a team? You know, that is not going to work, because we don't know whether whatever we have built is going to be, you know, liked by the client, or there is a market for it. So I think that is the crossroads we are in. We need to identify our own strengths, personal strength. And that is the only way we can move forward, I think, Neville. That is what my thinking is.
You're absolutely right, CK, and that's why today's really important, because although we just said this is, what support mechanisms have you got? It's that starts off with the internal strength and it moves to external strength when you're working with other people. And one thing we do know is the only thing that we can control is ourselves. We can influence, we can advise, we can, ultimately, if you go to it, you can bully other people. But fundamentally, if you really want others to do it, show them the way. And we've seen that so often is the case. And you will then see that you start to attract the right people, the people that want to do what you're doing, because it's exciting, it's encouraging, it's exhilarating. There are ways ahead where you can be successful. But like anything else, change is constant, and we just need to deal with it. So that's really where we need to be at the end of the day. So it's been a fascinating discussion with you today, CK. Thanks for the questions, everybody. Keep them coming in, because I know we get loads of questions, but most of them are down the same theme. And the main thing is you've got to do it. We can't do it for you. You've got to do it. It's your business, your life. So take something and go and do something with it, and then you'll learn a lot more about yourself.
Thank you so much, Neville, for finding time and joining us this morning. And viewers, there are a lot of questions. The lines are always open across LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. You can reach out to us and ask live questions while Neville is talking in this show. It's all live. So Neville, we will catch up tomorrow again with something even more interesting.
Absolutely, CK. Enjoy, everybody. Have a good day.
Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies, and today in our tip section we would like to discuss a very widely discussed topic of how to use our mobile device, which comes with a very good camera, good quality camera, as our webcam, because the webcam quality of the video is not very good. So when you are shooting a nice video, you want to use a party or some sort of an official video, then you are obviously looking for something which can have a high definition picture of you. And the high definition cameras are very expensive today. You will have to shell out a lot of money, a lot of investment goes into getting the high definition camera along with the cables, etc. So today we would like to discuss how you can make sure that you use the device which is already available, and how you can simply use it by not even investing a single dime into this activity. So let's discuss this. All you need is basically any sort of smartphone like iPhone or an Android phone and a PC. And you need to download a freeware software, which we will come to in a bit. But before that, before we proceed on the procedure, I'd like to tell you, friends, that in this particular method, which we are discussing today, we would need a Wi-Fi. So there are other solutions which require cable to be connected, and then USB cables, and then you need a bit of a controller to control your camera on the mobile device. But in today's session, we will simply use it open source or a freeware software to enable this. So to begin with, let me start sharing my screen. And as you can see, is the software that we have in mind for today is this software, which is called Irun, and it can be downloaded very simply by going to this website called irun.com. And then there are various versions available here. There is a Windows version, there is a Mac, etc. So once you click on this version for the choice of your platform like Mac or Windows, it will just download it. And once it is downloaded, you have to double click, accept the licensing agreement. After the agreement has been accepted, it will create a small icon on your desktop. And the installation is very simple. It will hardly take 1 minute to do that. And once you have downloaded it, the installation is completed, you will see this icon like here. And when you double click on this icon, it will pop up this warning message saying that it is not able to detect the mobile phone. So I think the one part of the activity has been done. We have finished that. Now let's look at how do we put this application, the other client side application, on our mobile. So in order to demonstrate that, let me connect my mobile uh, with uh, with my PC. And friends, as I said, you have to have a Wi-Fi installed in your home or your home office to be able to use this mobile device in this method. So as you can see, my mobile is now visible on your screen, and it is using the same Wi-Fi. The word of caution is that your mobile as well as your PC should be connected to the same Wi-Fi. Now we will go to the App Store and search for this same application called iRun. As you can see, it is available on App Store, but if you are an Android user, you can see it in your Play Store, and pretty much the same application is available. Since I've already installed this application, I just need to do open it. Installation is like a 30 seconds process. Just click on installation, it will install, and it will be ready to use. So once you install it and you open it, it will detect the session that you're running. And as you can see, whatever I'm seeing, it is showing the same thing on the PC. And boom, my mobile is connected to the PC, and it is showing me a live stream of whatever I'm seeing on the screen itself. So now, having done this, let's see how to configure this on on the PC. So we'll come back to PC and start seeing the PC console. So as you can see, it is now showing me the live feed into this application called iRun, the web client. And now here gives you a bit of features, like you can select the resolution of your choice. Now you need to remember that if you choose a higher resolution, the latency will also increase because it will take more time to transmit to your PC. However, let's select this resolution 1920 1080, which is substantially good resolution. Now we can see that this camera is now coming and streaming live into our PC. How do we use it now? So let's go to software like OBS, and as you can see, my camera is already selected. As you can see, I have installed it. It is selected iRun webcam. So it is already there as a web capture device in OBS. I can now play around with this. I can position it the way I want to position it. And it's a high definition video quality which I'm getting here. In order to use it, you can buy a tripod like we have shown here in the picture. You can put a tripod here, or you can put any kind of fixature to be able to do this activity. So friends, as you can see, it is just a 5 minutes activity to convert your mobile, which is you have so much faith on, as your webcam, and you can simply use it without the extra expenditure of buying any cable or expensive cameras, high definition camera. You can use it straight away your mobile as your webcam and make fantastic videos of your choice. iRun is not the only software available. There are multiple softwares available. You can choose whichever you want. and you can pretty much use the same method. There are several other softwares who follow the same methodology. That means there is a PC software which you need to download, and there is a mobile software which you need to download. Once you open all of them and you are connected on the same Wi-Fi network, you will get connected without doing anything. So friends, I'll end my video today, and hopefully you like this. And in case you have any suggestions or comments, do write in. I'll engage with you in my next video. Until then, I'd like to say goodbye for now.
Hello, friends. I'm Kanchan from Akulmach Technologies, and you are welcome to our show, Great Kings of India. Today, we have an eminent historian, Mrs. Meeta Joshi, who is a head of the department of one of the prestigious college, St. Anne's College at Hyderabad. And today, we'll be discussing another interesting king of our history. So, welcome to the show, Meeta ji. How are you today?
Namaskar, Kanchan. I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, Mitaji. And as you know, that we'll be discussing about Sunga dynasty empire, and which is a Magda empire controlled by controlled at north, central, eastern India, as well as part of northwest, now Pakistan. So we'd like to listen, and our viewers will also like to know about the great kings who established this empire after the fall of Mauryan Empire.
Okay. See, this Shunga Empire was founded by Pushyamitra Sunga, and he was the first ruler of the Sunga dynasty. And how he became the king is he assassinated the last Mauryan ruler, Brihadat Maurya, in a military review, and then he declared himself as a king and established this new dynasty, which was known as Shunga dynasty. And this was a totally Hindu dynasty, okay? Because in Mauryan Empire, if you remember, Ashoka was too much inclined toward Buddhism. But in this dynasty, Shunga dynasty, Pushyamitra Sunga followed Hinduism, and he was a staunch Hindu. He performed many Ashwamedh yagnas or sacrifices, and some of the Buddhist texts, they also say that he persecuted many Buddhist monks because he wanted only Brahmanism to prevail. He never wanted that Buddhism should come up. But again, there are two theories in this. Some Buddhist texts say that he persecuted the Buddhist monks, but some texts they state that he was not brutal towards the Buddhist monks. Okay. Now, as I told you, he was previously the Senapati, the general of the Mauryan army. So he knew all the tactics and techniques of the war. And to establish his kingdom, he used the same. All these war techniques, all whatever he has learned in the Mauryan Empire, he implemented those policies of administration. He implemented the same things in the military expeditions which happened. And many inscriptions which we found of the Sungas, they are found in Ayodhya, in Uttar Pradesh, and it in the even in the Punjab, in the northwest, and in those inscriptions, some of the inscriptions, it is mentioned that he did persecute the Buddhist monks, and he after him, his son Agnimitra, he succeeded the Shunga dynasty, after the death of his father, Pushyamitra Sunga. In around 148 BC, he came. The 185 BC, Pushyamitra Sunga ascended the throne, and in 148 or 149 BCE, Agnimitra, the son of Pushyamitra Sunga, he ascended the throne. Now, Agnimitra was a very dynamic king, and he was the subject of many works of Kalidas. Kalidas, as you know, was a famous poet of that time. So, in one of his epics known as Malvika Agnimitra, Kalidas has written about the love story of Agnimitra and Malvika. So that way he was also the subject for many poets, Agnimitra for that matter. And the Vayu Purana and Brahman Purana also mention his name, and they say that for around 8 years he ruled. Who? Agnimitra. Okay. And according to Kalidas in Malvika Agnimitram, Agnimitra belonged to Baimbika family, while the Puranas mention him as a Shunga. So here little conflict is there, because Kalidas gives a different picture, but the Puranas, they confirm that he was from Shunga dynasty. He was the son of Pushyamitra Shunga. And in Malvikagni Mitra, Kalidas has also told that he had 3 queens, 3 wives, Dharani, Iravati, and Malvika. So Malvika was the princess of Vidarbha. And this Malvika Agnimitra is the story of Agnimitra and Malvika, which Kalidas has written in his epic. Now, Agnimitra, according to the epic Malvika Agnimitra written by Kalidas, Kalidas writes in his book that a war broke out between the Shungas and the neighboring state Vidarbha during Agnimitra's reign. And before the rise of the Shungas, Vidarbha had become independent from the Mauryan Empire. Till Ashoka had not fought the Kalinga war, he was very, very ambitious, and he was into many conquests. But after the conquest of Kalinga, there was a hard change of Ashoka, and he stopped waging wars altogether. So that time, Vidarbha declared themselves independent from the Mauryan kingdom. And this one war was there where a former Mauryan minister put his brother-in-law Yajnasena on the throne of Vidarbha, and Madhavsena, a cousin of Yajnasena, he asked help from Agnimitra in overthrowing his cousin, but was captured while crossing the border of Vidarbha, and he was imprisoned. So Agnimitra demanded the release of Madhavsena, and in return, Yajnasena demanded the release of the former Mauryan minister who had been captured earlier by Agnimitra. So it was a sort of, this give and take type of a agreement. Instead, Agnimitra, what he did, he sent his army to invade Vidarbha, and Yajnasena was defeated and forced to divide Vidarbha with Madhavsena. And both cousins recognized the suzerainty of the Shunga rulers, that time Agnimitra, and this shows that he was an able military leader, because he made Vidarbha to come under his suzerainty, the kingdom of Vidarbha to come under his suzerainty. And if we see, many historians have written about the Shunga Empire in detail, like Rai Chaudhary, Professor Rai Chaudhary, in his book Political History of Ancient India, he has mentioned about the Shunga dynasty, about Pushyamitra and Agnimitra. Then Leheri, in his book Indigenous States of Northern India, he also has described about the might of the Shungas. But it was a very short-lived empire, the Shunga Empire, because after them, the Kanva dynasty came into being. And same thing, Kanva was also a general with Pushyamitra Sunga. So he declared himself independent, and then a new dynasty was established, that was Kanva dynasty.
Okay, so actually,
yeah.
I've read somewhere that Dev Bhuti, who was the first, who was the last king of Sangha dynasty, was assassinated by Kanwa dynasty king. Now,
Yes,
when we
yes.
talk about this Sangha dynasty, and you see, it came in existence after the fall of Mauryan Empire. So, what we really think about those times, what people used to be like that, reacting to this change, because as I was reading few books, it says that there's lot of impression of Persian art at that point of time, and he is like, as you mentioned, Kalidas has been given free hand to write good things about the king and the queen. So, what kind of culture existed at that point of time during this era?
See, when Mauryas were there, because Ashoka was a great propagator of Buddhism, so mostly people followed Buddhism. But because Ashoka was a very tolerant king, he never forced anyone to convert to Buddhism. So Brahmanism or Hinduism, Jainism, they all existed, contemporarily. But when this Shunga rule came, then the emphasis was more on Hinduism than Buddhism. That's why some of the text they say that he, and one of the inscriptions also says that he persecuted the Buddhist monks who Pushyamitra. So Hinduism was a dominant religion in both dynasties, Sunga and Kanva. Okay, and after that, after Kanva, Satvahanas, they came. So Satvahanas was one of the biggest Hindu kingdoms of India after Vijayanagar Empire. So Brahmanism was on the rise that time, and because the kings they performed many Ashwamedh sacrifices to confirm their superiority, okay, over the people. So that means the people who were in the empire, they were happy. There was no discontent. Only because whenever these military conquests happened, naturally the public will be disturbed because they will march towards the fields, and all that destruction, indirect destruction will happen. So that was a very obvious thing to maintain the dignity of the empire. But otherwise, people were happy under the rule of Pushyamitra Sunga and Agnimitra also.
So this whole dynasty ruled approximately few years from 185 BC to maybe 73 BC.
Yes,
And
till the
then,
Kanva rule was established.
yeah, so I think this is an era where approximately 10 rulers of Sunga dynasty ruled. So I can safely say that is kind of establishment of Hindu religion. When you see, then in Mauryan Empire there was establishment and propagation of Buddhism, but now this
Buddhism,
is a This is a dynasty which established Hinduism and give rise of Brahminism and Hinduism in that era.
Hinduism was already there, Kanchan, because in all the empires which existed before Mauryas also, only you get some Greek influence because of the Greek invasions. Alexander came in 326 BC, and then later, after all these dynasties, these Ghazni and Ghorid invasions. So Hinduism was there, but it was given preference in these dynasties, the Shunga and Kanva dynasty, because the founder of Kanva dynasty, Devbhuti, he also followed Hinduism, and he came to rule in 75 BCE. He also followed Hinduism. And after Kanva dynasty, then came the Satavahanas. They were staunch Hindu rulers. So the Hinduism was there, but because of these two religions, Jainism and Buddhism, it was overshadowed a bit.
Right. So when we talk about these two great kings, Pushmitra and Agnimitra, so what are those one or two significant aspect of their rule, which really we can cherish? What is the impact of that era?
If you see broadly, they followed the Mauryan administration model itself. Because as I told you, Pushyamitra was the Senapati of the Mauryas before he assassinated Brihadat and came to rule. So they followed the same model of administration. Only thing which was more dominant in the Shungas and Kanvas times was Hinduism, which was not there in the time of Ashoka, because he adopted Buddhism and he did a lot of work in the propagation and of Buddhism and preaching Buddhism, not only in India but outside India also. So that was the only major difference you can say. And because the the extent of Mauryan Empire was already very large, so Pushyamitra, he enjoyed, that vast empire. But because many of the kingdoms like Vidarbha, they declared themselves independent after Ashoka, because after Ashoka, we don't find any very prominent rulers in the Mauryas. So small states, they came up like mushrooms. Okay, so small states, they declared themselves independent and they said this is our our area. So that also happened. So disintegration of Mauryan Empire also happened. Shungas and Kanvas, they were not able to maintain that huge empire. So independent kingdoms, they started springing up. Because when you go back to the Mauryan times, and before that also the 16 Mahajanpadas which were there earlier, and then there was an integration of those Janpadas by Chandragupta Maurya, then again independently they came up. This was the major difference.
Yeah, so I think that after the fall of a huge empire, which is Mauryan Empire, and there's a rise of small kingdoms, and they have given more of stability to that to the people at that point of time. And a part of this, as you mentioned, the Kalidas, so rise of literature, and that too based on the Hindu philosophy. I think that is the contribution of these two great king of this particular
dynasty.
Lot
of work in literature, art, architecture happened in that time, no doubt about it.
So we'll be discussing about more once we have already covered and discussed about the Singha Empire and the great two kings of this empire. In our next episode, we'll be discussing about Kanva dynasty, who defeated this king. And till then, you take care. Bye bye. See you.
Thank you, Kanchan.
So, CK, how are all my elves doing?
Ho, 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 ho. It's Christmas, Neville.
Oh, okay. But you can't have time off until Christmas Eve because we're going to be busy.
This time, Neville, it is going to be digital Christmas, and I'm going to catch you digitally even on the eve of Christmas.
Oh, ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies, and today is 22nd. We're just 3 days away from Christmas. And to celebrate my Christmas, let me invite my friend from UK, Mr. Neville Cohn.
Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hello, CK. Couldn't resist that. Sorry, wearing a Santa hat. So, yes, 3 days away from Christmas Day. And as you probably heard, Christmas is cancelled.
Yes, Neville, I think we have been hearing a great deal about UK and the measures being taken there. And yesterday I heard on the TV that the list for people who will get vaccinated has been revised, and now the cutoff date is 75. Earlier it was 80. So I think lots is happening, and our best wishes for the everyone, not only for people from UK who are coming in the news quite a lot, but I'm sure it's a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah, it is. And thank goodness the vaccine is here. Our applause goes out to all those people involved in developing the vaccine that's been approved in the UK so far, and all the other vaccines that are well on their way to being approved. So that's the good news. And yes, we heard as of yesterday, this vaccine needs to be given in 2 doses. So it's a double dose, 7 to 10 days apart approximately. And as of yesterday, 500,000 people in the UK had been vaccinated, which is an amazing feat when you appreciate we're not really set up in this country to do any type of testing or vaccination that has come this way. So again, my heart and applause goes out to all of those involved in it. Yes, there's been logistical issues, particularly this initial vaccine that has to be stored at some ridiculously low temperature. And when it's distributed, it's only got like a 4 or 5 day shelf life. So the logistics around that are phenomenal. You know, we get flu jabs here each year, and it's like a methodical, like army approach, regimented approach. But for this, we've had even more people vaccinated in a fairly short period of time. So yep, it's really great news. It will continue into the new year. Hopefully, the second vaccine will be approved. That will be easier to distribute because it doesn't have this short shelf life that we've been told about, these low sub-zero temperatures that it has to be stored. So yeah, I think we're closing the year on a very happy note, despite the fact, sadly, for a lot of us in the UK and around the world, Christmas is cancelled. But let's talk about that, because people that focus on Christmas being a one-day event, you know, the 25th of December, we've probably lost sight of the fact of what this symbolizes to the Christian world and to many other people around the world. It's new birth, it's new life, it's new opportunity, and it's that magic of Christmas. I always talk about the magic of Christmas in July, frankly, because if you've got the magic of Christmas in July, you certainly have got the Christmas spirit. And it's that Christmas spirit of being kind, being grateful, being thankful, and just being a good human being. So there's nothing wrong with that. So let's just hope that Christmas isn't cancelled and we keep that magical, mystical type historical character who, don't tell anybody, but doesn't really exist in the North Pole, but does exist somewhere, and it's in here. That's where it exists, in our heart. So anyway, what does India hear about? Because I'm always fascinated. Wherever you are in the world, you hear about what's happening elsewhere, but of course, you're only hearing what they want you to hear. You're only hearing a snippet of the news programs that we have here. I mean, news in the UK is 24/7 now. BBC Channel has a regular news briefing, and it's on channel 601 on Virgin Media, and you can look at that any time of the day. And it's just instantaneous news, and it's rehashing everything that's been out there for the last 24 hours, if there's no news, or it's given us the weather, which is always another interesting subject. So what's India hearing about what's happening in the UK?
Well, I think I can understand what is going on in the minds of people in the UK, because I think it's a new year, sort of a new year, and a lot of celebration. And as you put it rightly, it is the magic of Christmas. So I think the Indians, the non-Christian Indians, have also gone through the similar feelings recently, because the similar celebration happened just 3 weeks back when we had
Diwali. Yeah. Absolutely.
It was a subdued Diwali, but the good thing is that you can still celebrate Christmas, and it's not going to be a gala event, but you can have the magic of Christmas really experience at home. And I think you can use a lot of Zoom sessions to communicate with each other. So it's going to be a digital Christmas this year.
It is, and interesting enough, as of yesterday, I have 5 children between my wife and myself. I've got 3 children, 2 stepchildren. As far as we're concerned, they're all ours. So, and they're in different parts of London, as it happens. They're all fairly close to us, but they're so far away, because even a couple of miles you can't even go there. So we're going to have a karaoke Zoom event on Christmas Eve. So, rather than do the traditional watch the TV and then go to church for Christmas carols, we're going to do a Zoom event and have I don't know how we're going to do this, by the way. I mean, the kids have told me it's perfectly possible, so it's fine. We're going to have a Zoom karaoke evening, which should be hilarious. Let's hope they don't record it, but playing back in a year's time, who knows? So there's loads of things you can do. Just the physical fact you're not together, and that is difficult. I mean, I've got to reach out to everybody. It is difficult. We're humans. We do like a cuddle. We do like to embrace, and that's the way that we do share. So yeah, it's going to be different, but we just need to get on with it. Really, we can't change it. Just get on with it.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's a different way of making sure that you celebrate, and there is not even iota of reduction in your celebration, but the medium of celebration is slightly different. It is digital now instead of physical. So going back to your question about what we've been hearing about UK. So firstly, I personally believe that the coronavirus is just pulling the mankind. It is erupts in some form of the other. Some different strains coming out, and some are getting infected with those special strains, and we keep hearing them about them in the news. So I think coronavirus is here to stay, and if you look at the Darwin's theory, I think it will mutate, and even if you don't get it, you will get it in some form or the other. And the important thing is to work on the immunity. So what we have been hearing is predominantly the news, and the news is what they want us to know. So any government want to shield certain information and don't want to publicize too much. For instance, there was a news of strange, I mean, we have heard this twice in last 2 weeks. Strange disease erupting in small pockets in India, killing few people and infecting 300. But beyond that, we have not heard anything beyond that. So we really don't know what is that is killing people, and that is not corona. So I think would I would say that, although we have been hearing a lot about UK, the lockdown and suspension of flight, sealing of border, but I'm sure, this new strain will erupt even with all these measures in every part of the world.
I'm sure it will. There's still question of where this original coronavirus actually started. Will we ever know? Who knows? Really, it's for the scientists in the world to go and find out. Really, but I think I'm really grateful of where I live, because despite all of the conversations that are going on, this new variant could have been hushed up. In certain countries, maybe it will have been hushed up. But the scientists saw a problem, they investigated the problem, and if we believe what the government are telling us, within 24 hours they made the decision and they locked down they created a new tier, and Christmas was going to be different to what it is now. It would have still been very different from previously. It would have been quite curtailed, only being able to have 3 households in a bubble, not 3 households on Christmas Day and then a different 3 households on Boxing Day and a different 3 households on Christmas Eve. It was 3 households as a bubble, which was going to would have caused us huge difficulties, because I have 5 children. Each of those children live in different areas. They're either in long-term relationships with a partner, or they're living with flatmates. Some are doing both, and it's really difficult. I mean, that they would have said, you'd have to choose 3 children, because they would have been 3 bubbles, the 3 different, or actually 2 children, because we would have been one of the bubbles. So you can pick your 2 favorite kids. Hello, give me a break. That's not going to happen. So in some respects, it's a little easier for us. I did see a bit of a joke. Well, I hope it was a joke. Someone being interviewed yesterday. I can't remember who the guy was, but he was quite outspoken. And the interviewer said, BBC interviewer said, "So, this lockdown for Christmas, what's it going to do for you?" And he said, "Oh, it's a bit of a result, really. I don't have to see the mother-in-law." Now, he meant it in all seriousness and jokingly, but yeah, there'll be lots of those sort of jokes going around. The point is, it is going to be different. This new strain is quite different from normal variants. We're told normally there are 2 elements of a particular virus that's been affected. In this particular strain that's been found over the last few weeks, 23 elements have changed. But they've even identified it to the part of the protein that's changed. So when a lot of people say, "Oh, it's a bit hit and miss, they really don't know what they're doing," I've got to hand it to the scientists out there. For anyone to come up with a vaccine in this short period of time, not just one vaccine, but if we add up all of the vaccines in the world that are currently being tested and are getting results, we're talking well into double figures, the numbers of vaccines that are out there. It's a very scientific approach. This is almost like a space type, NASA type approach to the problem that we've got. So we're not back in the sort of Florence Nightingale days where it was hit and miss or what happened. This is incredibly sophisticated. Some people call it genome project of the decade. In fact, it'll probably be of the century. And it's actually finding out exactly how these molecules are made up and how they affect the majority of people. And they're not going to get this right, because there are going to be a few people that do have adverse symptoms. We've already heard that, a couple of people that were initially injected had symptoms of rejection. They weren't as what everyone was claiming them to be, because they were like a couple of hours. And again, it was actually the NHS. It was two of nursing arena that had just a rejection of the injection. We see this all the time. One flu jab, I remember my whole arm just blew up overnight, but it went down the following day. It's just it's not going to be perfect for everybody, basically, because we are all different, despite the fact we like to think we're all the same.
So I think going back to the point that you made, Neville, is about, I also feel very lucky that, we are living in a democratic and liberal world where at least we hear of advancements and things that happen around us. But, I imagine half of the world is living in either, some sort of communism or dictatorship where people don't have any means to even know what is going on in the neighborhood. So I think I feel very lucky that we know and we can discuss openly things like these. And at the same time, when you get vaccination, there will be a side effect. Every vaccination, whatever you take today, even the kids, it comes with a bunch of warnings like swelling, fever, nausea, things like that. So I think it's associated with all kinds of vaccination. It's a general, advisory that you will get the arm swollen up, or the area around which the vaccine has been applied will swell up a bit. You may have a fever for 1 or 2 days and so on. So I think coronavirus vaccine will be similar. It will come with similar sort of warnings. But most important thing is that the people in UK are getting it. And I feel also very good about it that the India has approved Pfizer one. They are going to
Oh, excellent. That's really good news.
Yes, and they are going to start vaccination within a few weeks from now. So they are preparing the list of the first recipient. And since India being such a large country, the first list comprised of 18 million people. So we don't have the knowledge of the date when it will start, but surely it will start in a couple of weeks. The second vaccine which is coming up in India is something called Covaxin. It's an Indian-owned region, and that is going to be the second one that we will have as a second choice. So Pfizer one for the emergency cases, and then Covaxin will come in picture after 1 or 2 weeks of vaccination to start.
It's good news, and the homegrown vaccine just goes to give a lot of people in India the confidence that you've got some really brilliant people behind the scenes as well. I mean, that's one of the things that this particular pandemic has shown. We've got some fantastic people all the way around the world. No one country has got the monopoly on the best scientists. We've all got great scientists. And the other thing is they're all working together, which is what businesses really should take a leaf out of their copybook. Start working together. A number of times you and I talk about collaboration on our programs. It doesn't mean to say you're giving away your intellectual property or your competitive advantage, but 1 + 1 is definitely greater than 2. Stop behaving 1 + 1 is less than 1. Because that's really for a mathematician, that's not what we want. We do want this R rate actually. In the business world, we want the R rate to improve. We want 1.4, we want 1.5, we want 2.5. We do want the excitement of being entrepreneurial, so that it feeds through, and it's like a positive virus that feeds through us all. And so next year will be better than last year, and even better than the year before.
Yes, and while we are grappling with this situation, I sincerely, feel that every one of us, like we are doing, Neville, to celebrate the digital Christmas and also the New Year. So I think going forward, there will be some social change. We will be more active digitally and celebrate digitally. And as you said that you are going to participate in a family karaoke. So I think that's a good idea. There could be 1,000 other ideas, on the digital platform where people can start enjoying. And we would like to know more from other people. What are the other ideas by which they can celebrate a very good Christmas?